Pittsburgh Steelers added a fourth offensive coordinator candidate, and while some people are underwhelmed by the decision, this is the first time that maybe they're let down by a candidate that the Pittsburgh Steelers have brought in. I think there's some optimism. I think this is another reason to think positively about the direction that this team is headed. What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackbein. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to-go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they bring in their fourth offensive coordinator candidate, interviewing Jerrod Johnson, former training camp quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but most recently quarterbacks coach for the Houston Texans, helped lead this team to a playoff berth, an AFC South victory, CJ Stroud most likely winning Offensive Rookie of the Year, and a quarterback situation in Houston that looks like a very, very promising one. He has been looked at by a number of teams, the Cleveland Browns, the Philadelphia Eagles, the New Orleans Saints. Now he's coming to Pittsburgh to get an interview. Sources tell All Steelers Talk. And I got to say that it is a bit underwhelming compared to who they have been named to in the first couple of rounds here. But I think it still aligns with an optimistic view, an outlook that I think we can latch onto and say this is the right call by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So far, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been linked to Zach Robinson, quarterbacks coach to the Los Angeles Rams, who they will likely lose to the Atlanta Falcons as an offensive coordinator now that the Falcons have hired Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris. Looks like Zach Robinson is going to Atlanta. He's going to coach Bijan and the rest of that team and hopefully a new quarterback, and doesn't look like the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to land that one. Cliff Kingsbury, while the reports say that they will talk to him, they have not yet. That being said, he is still a very, very high, very powerful name on the coaching carousel when it comes to an offensive coordinator candidate, and one that I think brings a lot of optimism and a lot of positivity and a lot of, this is the big one here to a lot of fans and a lot of faces out there. He is a hot name on the market, and the Pittsburgh Steelers being involved in any fashion is a good thing right now if you're a fan. Then it was Thomas Brown, former offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. And I know you're sitting around going, Carolina, what? Well, from what I have heard, it's that it wasn't necessarily Thomas Brown's fault. And a lot of this was the Carolina Panthers were such a sinking ship last season and everything was going wrong. And David Tepper didn't want anything to do with pretty much anybody who was there by the end of the season. And Thomas Brown really never got an opportunity to put his money where his mouth is and showcase what he can do as an offensive coordinator. And in the small time that he was able to, at that point, Bryce Young was dealing with injuries and the offensive line was shifting on a weekly basis. What I have been told out of Carolina is that the players love that guy. The coaches around him respect him. They think that he is a genius when it comes to the offensive side of the football, that there is nobody sitting around after he left Carolina thinking this guy isn't going to succeed in the NFL, that they believe he will be a great offensive coordinator candidate somewhere, and maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers are just that. That's their first interview. Their second interview now is Jerrod Johnson, who has very limited coaching experience. Really, his only big position was the quarterbacks coach for the Houston Texans the last 2 seasons. He's had one very promising season with CJ Stroud. Before that, he was an assistant quarterbacks coach with the Minnesota Vikings. He does not have play calling experience, which is what the Pittsburgh Steelers said they are looking for. He does check a box when it comes to helping develop quarterbacks. He does not check a box when it comes to the experience side that Mike Tomlin said that he wants in a new offensive coordinator. Now, again, I think where we stand right now, where the Pittsburgh Steelers stand, this is still a good move. Cast your net as wide as possible. Try to reach out and do as much due diligence as you possibly can to make sure that you do not miss anybody. And it is not like Jerrod Johnson is the only name that you're sitting around going, I don't know about that one. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are the only name that are going to bring him in for an interview. He's looking at the Eagles. He's looking at the Cleveland Browns. He's looking at the New Orleans Saints. He's a guy that is going to be a hot topic because of what he did with CJ Stroud. And maybe he isn't the top hire. Maybe he isn't a Clint Kubiak. Maybe he isn't a Cliff Kingsbury. Maybe he isn't a Thomas Brown or a Zach Robinson. Maybe he's that next step down. But the Pittsburgh Steelers making sure that they do interview this guy, that they do know what he is capable of bringing to the team, I think is the right move to make by the Pittsburgh Steelers. It would be different if we were sitting here going, oh, this team is interviewing Byron Leftwich, or they're bringing back Todd Haley, or it was a name that you were sitting around going, the Steelers are going to be the only ones who are interested in this guy. They'd be the only ones who would hire this guy. That would be it. It'd be different if that was the case, but it's not. This is a hot name on the coaching carousel. This is an offensive coordinator of the future somewhere in the NFL, and the Pittsburgh Steelers might not be all in on him, but to sit here and say, well, we want to make sure that we do not miss somebody is the right move. It's also so early, and to continue to move at the pace that the Pittsburgh Steelers are moving at is a positive one. You look at that and say, look, they are 4 candidates deep within a week. We are at the end of the week where on Monday or Tuesday, the first request went in. We are now 4 candidates in. That's nearly a candidate a day. That's impressive. That's where the Steelers should be. They are moving swiftly. They are looking at all options. There will be plenty of more options. And I think that that's what this showcases is look at, we're going to do the interviews that we can do right now. We are going to do more interviews next week after the NFC and the AFC playoff games are done. We're going to continue to bring in guys. We are going to continue to expand the search. It is not a one and done situation. So I do not look at Gerard Johnson as a one and done situation. If that was the case, Thomas Brown would have had the job already, because I think that he's more impressive than Gerard Johnson, and I think that he's a name that would spark more interest from a lot of teams, including the Pittsburgh Steelers, than Gerard Johnson. That's just where I stand. I think this is a good thing. I'm not upset about the move. It is the first time that you saw a candidate and went, I guess, out of the 4, which is still good. We're shooting 75% right now. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, plenty more to come. This one, don't hold on to it too tightly. Don't get too down about where they're headed. Just view it as, do all the homework. Don't do some of the homework. Do all of the homework. Any name that any other team is considering, and if multiple other teams are considering that name, look at it. Because who knows? Maybe you're about to find something that every other team sees as well, and you go, might as well. We might as well check it out. You never know when something's going to spark, and you're going to hit the next Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay or Mike McDaniels or whoever. You might as well do as much homework as possible. And if that's where the Pittsburgh Steelers are headed, I think we should be okay with it.